Uh, we have coaching on every Mondays and Fridays. This is the coaching that we have. And then we have our team meetings on Wednesdays. So we encourage everybody to come in, but if you can't make it, you can always jump on Zoom or, watch the recording after we get it uploaded. And the coaching is basically taps into our system that I think I talked to you about. Basically, it's how to make six figures in the next 6 to 12 months. And so we basically go over that, and I help everybody with any specific issues that they're having to help guide them forward on what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
No, we have 3 minutes.
Are we being recorded right now or no?
Yes, I can read it.
No, so I was gonna tell you something. So. Oh, they're trying to find out right now what's going on over there. Haven't heard it. Anything fun this weekend? Did you do anything this weekend? Studied?
Yeah.
For the real estate exam?
Real.
Nice, nice. How about you? Did you do anything this weekend?
Yeah, I got taking care of the headshots.
Okay.
So a nice couple of selections, and figure I'd reach out to the business card man today and get that on the card and get those going up in motion.
Yep.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
thanks.
That's awesome. How about you? Did you do anything this last weekend that was fun?
Nothing too fun like that. Work part-time in a restaurant. Just hung out. Took a
Okay.
weekend laundry.
I hear you. My son went back to his mom's, and so like we had to do laundry. It's always fun. I took my son to we want to go to Hollywood Boulevard for his 16th birthday and walk around. Man, you want to feel old. Like and my son was wearing these crazy pants. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I know I'm old when I see the kids doing things, and I'm like, I don't understand it. But then yet people are complimenting him. He's like, those pants are fire. I'm like, what? Seriously? Like, the pants are like a dress. I don't get it. Then I bought him this Yeezy hoodie. He just $120. Bought my love for my son for the entire weekend. It was a pretty good deal. Pretty good deal. He's like, it's Yeezy. It's only $120. I'm like, I think we kind of get those for free now. I mean, based on like everything that happened, like I didn't say that to him, but ready to go?
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome back to Philosopher's Notes TV. Today we've got another good one. He Can Who Thinks He Can, long title, by Orison Swett Marden. Going old school, this was written in 1908 or so when Teddy Roosevelt was president. Orison Swett Marden founded Success Magazine. Really cool, kind of a blend of James Allen, really inspired by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and just all about virtues-based success. I love him. Good book. Philosopher's Note. We've got a bunch of big ideas in there. We're going to look at 5 of my favorite right now. We're going to start with think you can? Well, do you think you can? As Henry Ford tells us, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Scientists agree. They call it self-efficacy. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in your ability to create that which you aspire to create? It's the greatest predictor of our ability to do it. You're not going to create too much stuff that you don't think you can do. Do you think you can? So he tells this really cool story about, well, do you want to be a lawyer? I dropped out of law school. Would have been class of 2000 at UC Berkeley's Bolt School of Law. Go me, dropped out before a semester was over. But if I knew I wanted to be an attorney, would it make sense for me to study medicine? It makes no sense. If I wanted to be an attorney and I'm studying medicine, there's something wrong with that, right? Doesn't make any sense. I need to immerse myself in the study of law. He says you need to graft yourself to the tree of law so that the sap circulates through you. That's how committed you need to be to law. Then he draws the parallel and he says, look, if you want to be successful, all you think about are your fears of failing and being a failure. You're going to have as hard of a time becoming an attorney as someone who has studied medicine would. It's not going to work. You need to graft yourself to the tree of success. You need to think about success. You need to study success. You need to embody success. You need to act such that success comes to you. You need to think you can. Really cool concept. That's the first big idea. The second big idea, God's kindergarten. That's what life is. Life is one big classroom, teaching us lessons we can choose to learn or not. Every single moment gives us an opportunity to get a little bit wiser, just a little bit if we're open to it. Or we can numb out and shut down and not pay any attention. We want to approach life as our classroom. All the great teachers talk about this. God's kindergarten, he says. I love that. God's kindergarten. Moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, what can we learn? How can we optimize just a little bit, get 1% better day in and day out? Yesterday we talked about dominoes. You line up 1% gains, compound effect style, that doubling penny, or the 50% bigger dominoes, you have huge potential. But we've got to start by seeing life as our classroom. Next big idea, functional dreaming. He calls it practical dreaming, but I like the idea of functional dreaming. So think of functional training or functional medicine. We talked about functional optimism in our note on Tony Horton's The Big Picture, right? Talked about functional optimism is where you believe your future will be awesome because you know you're going to do what it takes to make it awesome. It's positive belief plus positive action. You need to put both of them together. Well, same thing with functional dreaming. He has some great stories about how powerful it is to dream and that we need to be able to see our ideal future and cherish those visions, as James Allen says. Right? We've got to be able to see our ideal future, then live from that place. And we need to be practical about it and combine our dreaming with grit and persistence. Doesn't matter how awesome our vision board is or whatever we see as the possibility if we don't take consistent, gritty, persistent action. We've got to show up. Functional dreaming. Positive belief and positive vision mixed with a tenacious iron will, which is another one of Orison's great books. Functional dreaming. Are you functionally dreaming? Or are you kind of sort of just dreaming? We want to get the action in there. Next big idea is a good one. Igniting potential. Igniting potential. So this is 1908, and he talks about a torpedo, a Maximite torpedo. Apparently that was pretty awesome back in the day. And it could blow up a warship, right? It was so powerful that it could blow up a warship. But he said kids could play with this torpedo all day long, every day for the rest of their lives, and they could never set it off. You could bang it around, you could kind of throw it through a wall, you can do whatever you want. That will not set off this huge torpedo. It required tremendous force, an extraordinary amount of force applied to it, shooting it through a couple feet of iron, a cannon, in order to ignite its potential. It has this huge, huge, huge latent potential that could only be ignited by a huge force. And he says we're exactly the same way. And he compares Lincoln without the Civil War and with the Civil War. Lincoln needed the Civil War and the huge, horrific challenges of trying to preserve our Union in order to call forth his latent potential. It was the responsibility he willingly accepted that allowed his highest self, his greatest potential to come through. Most of us avoid responsibility. We don't take on big projects. We don't go for it. We don't lean in. But he says if we want to ignite our potential, we have to. We have to lean into responsibility. It's the responsibility that creates the ability, he says. Igniting our potential. Think about that in your life. I've experienced that. It was when the best was required of me that I showed up with my best. It's probably the same for you. Now, it's gnarly when we do that. It's scary. So we kind of want to pull back a little bit more into our comfort zone. But if we want to see our infinite potential, we need to be willing to bust through our comfort zone, through our fears, and ignite our potential. That's the fourth big idea. Igniting our potential. Can you step into a little more responsibility or take a little bit more risk? Can you dare a little more greatly? Again, here's president when Teddy Roosevelt was president. Daring greatly. Be in the arena. Have that supreme confidence, knowing that you can. He who thinks he can. Now the final big idea, 212 degrees, please. So we're in 1908. Steam engines are changing the world, right? They have over the last X years, X couple of decades, whatever it is, right? Well, what's it take for water to create steam? What's it take? Will 200 degrees do it? No, 200 degrees won't do it. Will 210 degrees do it? No, 210 degrees is useless. 212 degrees is what it takes to boil water to create steam. And he says lukewarm water won't do it. Even 200, 210 degrees won't do it. 212 degrees is what it takes to power a boat via steam power. We need to bring ourselves to a boil, is what he says. We can't be lukewarm. We can't kind of sort of go through the motions. 212 degrees. So where are you? Are you just kind of tepid? Are you like room temperature? Right? That's not going to get it done. You got to be willing to turn it up. As Campbell says, quoting Ramakrishna, do not approach life or enlightenment unless you approach it like a man approaches a lake whose hair is on fire. You go for it. You're all in. Nothing's going to get in your way. When we have that tenacity, that grit, that persistence, that commitment, we ignite our potential and we become functional dreamers. Then we're also much more willing to see life as a classroom because we're all about growing. We're all about getting a little bit better. We're daring greatly. We're all in. And then we cultivate our ability to know that we can. So there you go. He who thinks he can, or she who thinks she can. Do you think you can? I think you can. Let's go do it. Hope you enjoyed. What was your favorite big idea? What landed the most for you that just reminded you of something you already knew or just opened your eyes to something that might have inspired you? How do you take that idea and apply it to your life more consistently? Theory to practice is what we want to do. Hope you enjoyed. I look forward to sharing more with you soon. Have another awesome day. See ya.
Awesome. I love that book. I love that book. That's a great book. Did anybody get anything from that?
Yes.
What'd you get from that?
What resonated well with me is the 212 degrees.
Yep.
Meaning that you have to go through a certain level in order to get results.
Yep.
And even when you think that you might be there and you want to quit, sometimes it just takes that, last 2 degrees to hit the boiling point, which is when you can win. And then also the God's kindergarten resonated with me as well, because I believe that life is a class.
Yep.
And the same lessons will get taught over and over again until you learn it.
100%.
So, yeah, those are a couple of things that, I definitely liked.
Yeah, I like, so the 212 degrees, like cold, warm, and hot. Like, where are you at with you and your life and your business? Like, are you where you need to be? And what I find is that most agents are here. They're cold. And that's just statistics. I think the statistic last year was that 750,000 agents, which is half of the agent population, did 0 to 1 deal. To me, that's super cold. That's like negative cold, right? And so to get to warm is where most agents end up becoming, but very few actually become hot. And if you look at our regional awards that we did last week, that was very evident in some of the teams. So like Richard Schulman ended up getting the top team in the entire Los Angeles area. He did 167 million in sales, like 256 units. But then the next one under him was 56, like a crazy drop. Most people don't get to that hot part because what I believe is it's like, what does it take to get you there? But it's not more than what does it take, it's what are you willing to do? And the willing to do part, I think, is really, 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 really valuable because we've done the math, because real estate's really just numbers. We've done the math. And I found that if you want to make, if you're able to make 25 phone calls a day, be consistent in that, you're going to probably hit your goals on whatever that is. But what I found is that when I coach agents, like everything gets in the way of making those 25 calls. The cat got out, I had to pick my son up, my car broke down, like there's all of these reasons. And that's fine, like life happens, but it's like you change that and you pick it up and you keep doing it instead of just like when one flat tire happens, you don't go around and like pop the other three. Like you just got to realize that, you know, you have to be consistent in your behavior. And what are you willing to do? Are you willing to pick up where you left off yesterday and start anew and keep going without any expectation of a result? That's where I think it's hard. Like real estate is really hard because I'm going to tell you to do a bunch of stuff, go do this, and you may not get a return on it. That's really hard to do. And then that may happen for 2 or 3 months. But I can almost guarantee that if you put in the work, it will happen. We have so much success in showing people that. So I think that's the 212 resonated with me. And life is one big classroom. The iterations determine how much. So what I've learned in time is that it's not what you do to be successful, it's how much you do of it. So the reason that I'm successful in everything that I do, it's not because like I didn't go out and make one phone call and get a sale. If you want to make one phone call a day, you'll be successful in real estate. I just don't know how long that's going to take. If you want to be successful in a very short amount of time, it's like how many phone calls are you willing to do and how many people are you willing to talk to every day? What number is that? I tell you 25. To me, that's the low bar. I have people to do 100 a day. So it's like, where are you at and what are you willing to do? Because that's going to determine how successful you are. It's all your work ethic, 100%. Those are really good points. Anybody else get anything from any of that?
Yeah, I think that the 25 a day is just so hard for people to grasp, even though it's reality. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make those calls, but it's just the amount of the real estate conversations.
Mhm.
You know, I think calling them that instead of prospecting for some reason in agents' heads, it's so much easier because when you say the word prospecting,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't want to do that. People are going to hate me. But you know, I think I did this with a coaching client of mine a long time ago. He was from New York. And I was telling him the exact same thing. You know, it's got to be this amount of phone calls that you need to make. And he's just like, it's just so frustrating and making all these excuses. And we finally came to this plan, and it may work for some people, is just make a decision to make an appointment with yourself that you're going to have this many conversations until you get an appointment or a lead.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. So he goes, Tammy, you mean if I'm only on the phone for 20 minutes and I get an appointment, then I'm done for the day? I'm like, yep. And that literally changed his whole mindset, because this is really what it comes down to is, you know, thinking that you can, thinking that you're good enough. But it gets you in momentum, and it's different for everybody. Some people can just knock out 25. Most can't, because it's that mental block. So, you know, give yourself that 2-hour window and say, I'm going to have this many real estate conversations until I get an appointment. And you're going to get one, you know, okay, so you don't get one every day, but you get 2 a week, that's 8 a month. If your skills suck, you're still going to get a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I did an exercise that showed like what you had to do to make $300,000, and I took $300,000 and I backed it out all the way into what you had to do on a daily basis, and it came down to 10 valid real estate conversations a day.
Yeah.
But it's like to get to that 10, that's not easy to do. And I tell people 25, like when I coach you one-on-one, I'm like, I need you to talk to 25 people today. I say that because I don't really expect it to happen, but I need you to try. And I want to see, what are you willing to do? And, you know, like like you were saying, a lot of agents have jobs. And I think the jobs, like it's easy, like you're comfortable. Like when you have a job, you're comfortable, you're making money, you get your bills paid, like all that's good. So that takes the edge off of the willingness part. So I remember, you know, for me, when I first started, so I restarted a couple of times, like that's a whole long story that I don't have time for the class. But like when I first started, like I literally quit my job like an insane person. I had a wife who was pregnant with our first kid and not working, and I was just like calling people going, what is wrong with you? Why did you quit your job? You're an idiot. Like I had all this negative self-talk in my head, and at the end of the day, I had no backup plan, and what I was willing to do was literally whatever it took. Whatever it took. You tell me to do this, I'll go do that. Like I was scrambling, and I think that in today's world with like the gig economy, when you have all these side hustles that you can do, like I think it takes the edge off of what people are willing to actually do. Because I think it's very hard to see $200, $300, $400, $500,000 in real estate when that's a real thing. Like last year, the rookie of the year last year did for this office did 189,000 their first year. Like it's a young dude too, like younger than maybe anybody in this room. Like he's in his 20s, early 20s. Anybody in the early 20s? No, okay, I don't know. I'm bad with numbers, so early 20s? No, I'm close though, right? Okay. I don't want to get in trouble with HR asking people's ages, so. Yeah, I know, right? But it's like, the guy came in and he has hustle and he has focus, and his willingness to make it happen is just off the chart. And I think that there's just a tremendous amount of people out there, like all you have to do is go on TikTok for like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And the amount of side hustles and amount of these 20-something, make $10,000 a day. Really? If you were making $10,000 a day, you would not be on TikTok telling me how to make $10,000 a day. I'm just saying. So I just think the willingness to do it and the iterations. So as I'm going to tell you to make a phone call, an iteration is like, how many times can you do it? It's your repetitions. It's like going to the gym, right? You're not going to go to the gym and lift 150-pound dumbbell and be like, oh, my muscles are so huge now, right? You're going to work out all day, put in as much work as you possibly can. And the next day you're going to jump in front of the mirror and be like, nothing. Okay, go back to the gym. Lift all this weight, jump back in front of the mirror, nothing. And that's just the way it works. But in time, with consistency, a lot of iterations, something happens. And it's the same thing in real estate. Your return on investment will happen after you do enough reps. And how many times, and this is why I love real estate so much, is that you don't have to be super talented. You don't have to be super smart. You don't have to have anything special about you to be successful. You have to be willing to put in the amount of reps every day consistently, time over task, and it will absolutely happen. Absolutely. I think this is important. So like, I'm not a dream board guy, like a dream board thing. Like, I know people to do it. That's just not my thing, but I do believe, and you have to see it to believe it. You have to see it somewhere and you have to have it in your mind. So like, if you look at my calendar, and the thing that I have is that I have a planner that I write down my goals twice a day. And I do the writing down part because I feel like more of a connection to it, and I see it and I connect to my goals more when I write them down. So in the morning I write them down, and at night I write them down. And then I write down all the little things that I'm trying to accomplish during the day in between all of that. And it's just like, I have to believe I can see it. And the funny part is if I take that notebook and I go back 3, 4, 5 years, and I look at the goals that I had, they're different because I've accomplished them all. I remember there was one where I wanted a specific type of car. I wanted to drive a Mercedes. I wanted a trip to Hawaii. I wanted a trip to New York City. There's like all these big goals that I wanted. They're all done. They're all done. Mercedes burned up. I will not own a Mercedes again, probably. That's a different story. But I got the Mercedes, I got the Hawaii, I got the New York, I got all of these things. And it's just like, and then like, I wanted to recruit a certain number of agents. That happened. I wanted to make a certain amount of money every year. That happened. Like, and the thing is that what you focus on expands. And that's why I always encourage like no negative talk. Do not talk negative to yourself at all, no matter what. Because you talk to yourself more than anybody else. So if you are saying negative things to you, we all say negative things to each other, ourselves every day, but you have to catch yourself and stop it. Like, you know, I'm like getting dressed, I'm like, man, my booty is big. Like, don't say things like that to yourself. Like, you know, think about the positive things and then do things on a daily basis to get you where you need to go. Because I mean, honestly, if we all made $200,000 a year and either 200,000 or an extra 200,000, like, would that change your life? Change a lot of, if I made an extra 200 grand, that would do things for me. Right? And so you have to be able to see it and believe it. Well, this, the think you can, do you believe, be committed, be successful, act as if. The great thing about real estate is that you do not have to actually be successful for people to believe you're successful. I find it fascinating. I think attorneys are the same way. Because if you sat in front of the attorney and you asked the attorney a question, that guy knew his shit. And he was able to just, you wouldn't be like, so how many cases have you won? How much have you litigated? How long have you wouldn't ask him those questions because he knows his stuff. Like that, it'd almost be rude to say, this guy really knows his stuff. I'm not going to ask him his education. Real estate's the same way. I remember when I started in real estate, I was trying to get things that somebody told me to door knock. And so I was like, I'm going to door knock 100 doors in a day. That was hard. I only did it once. But I door knocked and I ended up getting an appointment with somebody. And it was one of my first appointments that I ever had by myself. And I was scared to death. And I read the entire contract from front to back, had no idea what half of it said. And I went on this presentation and I wasn't sure how to do a presentation because they didn't have the training like they do today and all the cool, fun stuff. There wasn't a Michael Lewis marketing suite. There wasn't all that stuff. And so I put this presentation together and I'm thinking, how do I stand out? Because I've never sold a house in this neighborhood. And so what I did is I looked around the neighborhood and I found a house that our company had sold. And I went to the guy that sold it and I said, hey, are you okay if I take, and now I know that I could have just done it, but I was like, hey, are you okay if I take the information from this house and, you know, tell them that we sold it in the blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, no problem. Go away. And so I ended up getting in front of these people. And what I ended up doing, put together the most ridiculous amount of unnecessary information to make myself look really cool in front of these people. And when I say that, is that they asked me the dreaded question, how many homes have you sold? And I skirted the question by saying, you know what, we just sold a home, just sold a home around the corner on Vincennes Avenue. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square feet. We sold it for $340,000. That was a real number, $340,000. And I just kind of kept talking about the house. And I said, did you know how many fire hydrants are in this neighborhood? And they looked at me, I go, there's 75. Do you know how many light poles? Do you know how many pools? I just spit out this ridiculous amount of information.
I have a lot of stories.
Yeah.
That is funny.
I was like, there's 75 light poles, there's 12 fire hydrants, there's 26 pools. Like, it got to a point to where they were like, all right, okay. And then the weirdest thing happened is that I was going through the contract because they said they wanted a list. And I was like, and this is the commission part. Do you know how commission works? And she says, yep. Took the pen, wrote in 6%. She goes, you deserve 6%. I was like, am I being punked? Like, what's going on here? And I ended up getting it. They canceled a month later, by the way, but anyway, I know. But the thing is that being in the real estate business, if you can show that you know your stuff, you're never going to get questioned on how valuable you are. You're just going to automatically, that's why I say, like, so I have an alert set on Google Alerts to send me notifications of real estate information, because what I don't want to have happen is I don't want my clients to call me one day and say, hey, did you hear about blah, blah, blah? And I'd be like, Let me get back to you. I don't know. So I'm always constantly on top of things, like I'm in my office looking at news, because I want to be informed for you guys and for my clients. Just so I know, we almost got caught. We took a listing up in Pine Mountain Club. Does anybody know where Pine Mountain Club is? You don't know where Pine Mountain Club is?
Is that Fraser?
Yeah, it's up by Fraser Park, yeah. It's like, think Big Bear with no lake or anything fun,
No,
just
the
saying.
only thing you do up there is, actually, my son was just there this weekend, that's why because he was riding motorcycles, but yeah, that's pretty dense.
I don't know what you would do up there, except you go film a horror movie of like in the woods alone with nothing to do. So we took a listing up there because Tracy accidentally ended up like being a massive listing agent up there because she goes after expired listings and she gets them. So we actually got an expired listing up there. It's a super unique property. And we're on the appointment and the guy's like, do you know about the new Fort Tejon thing that's going in probably about a year? And Tracy and I were just sitting there like, you know what? I think someone in my Bakersfield office knows about that. Let me find out what's going on. We got in the car. I was like, Ken, do you know about the Fort Tejon thing? He's like, oh yeah. And he spit out all this information. I'm like in my notes typing all these things. And I call him back, oh, hey, I want to give you some more information about that thing. And I called him back and I just reiterated all this information. But it was, the way we handled it, because of all the other things that he knew that we were professionals, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But knowing things like that and being on top of stuff is really, really important. And that has nothing to do with how experienced you are, because if you can demonstrate experience without having it, it buffers that. Does that make sense? So you have to be articulate and know what you're saying. Like, what's the average sale price in LA right now? $1 million. $1 million. Right.
I think it's even higher than that because, Valencia just hit 960 today.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I know the San Fernando Valley is like 1,000,001 almost.
Yeah.
And I know that within like 2 square miles of this area, it's 1 million. But then like literally you can go a couple of blocks in Brentwood or whatever, it shoots up by like 1 million. It's crazy. But having this information and knowing and be able to rattle it off gives you a tremendous amount of value. So that's why I'm saying like, learning all this stuff on the test is great. And knowing certain things is really great, but like knowing the market and what's happening in the market
Yeah.
is
It
super
shouldn't
valuable.
Be like, are you checking your emails?
Yeah,
Like, check your email and then go to your hot sheet on whatever MLS you're part of. And just do your due diligence, know what the average price is in your area, know what's coming up on the market.
Yeah.
If you're brand new and don't know your inventory, go pick 3 listings a day and go preview. That way it just gets you, because if you guys are getting, you really need to understand that what Frank is saying, if you know your stuff, there's never, because that's the agent's biggest fear if you're brand new or haven't done anything for a while, is, oh my God, they're gonna ask me, am I new? And you're gonna have to tell them.
Yep.
Or they're going to say, how many homes have you sold in the last year?
Yep.
And you just use your company.
And if you can get in front of it and talk, like your stuff with all the information, you'll never get that question. They'll never
You
question you.
won't. And you also have to understand that the consumer, even though we talk a lot about, oh my gosh, they're so informed now, and I don't know about you, Frank, but I just don't think they are.
They're not.
You know
They know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah, and then again, it comes back to being confident on knowing, okay, that's not necessarily true. And how to articulate that. And the way you do that is by getting, a role play partner. And I know most are like, oh, I don't want to do role play, so stupid. I agree 110%. I hated doing it for the longest time, but it worked. So you can either make a mistake with your buddy over here, or you can make 6% mistake in your pocketbook. You choose.
Practice on your client. Yeah, you can role play with a client, lose a deal, or, lose something, or you can practice on somebody that's practicing too, and you guys can get better. You know, it's all about how many conversations are you having about real estate every day. I honestly have probably about 50 conversations a day about real estate every day, between agents, between clients. I don't know, Tracy and I have like 3 or 4 deals going on right now. I think I've lost track. Because we're doing what our coach told us to do and our business is doing really well. But like, I'm always available for you guys. So like, I have people calling me all the time. What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? If I don't know it, I said, listen, I know who does that. I know, somebody asked me about, costs in Valencia. And he's like, you know, there's this cost and there's that cost. And I said, to be honest, Valencia is out of control with costs. There's Mello-Roos and there's special assessments and there's HOAs and it's out of control. Nobody really knows everything. I said, but I do know somebody that can help you, and I connected him with a few people. So being able to say you don't know something, but having a way to articulate how you can help them is super valuable as well. But this comes back to act as if. Act as if you were already a millionaire real estate agent. Act as if you were already making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. Just act that way. You do that by knowing your stuff and by sharing properties on social media. So like, take the properties that the office posts and share. And I already have a couple of agents doing this, and it shows that you are already out there doing things. The consumers don't know any better. They don't. They see that you're promoting a property that just listed or just sold. They don't know it's not yours. I know an agent that thought Coldwell Banker was the bank. No, it's the last name of a dude from a long time ago that's not alive anymore. I'm like, he's like, you heard of Coldwell Banker? It's a bank thing, right? I go, no, what? But yeah, doing this is really important. It shows that you are not just brand new. Anybody else have anything? Because I want to go over a couple of the models that we have that I want to show you how simplistic this is. When it comes back to the NAR lawsuit, I told everybody, learn as much as you possibly can, go to every training class you can, and find out everything you possibly can about it, and then go to your clients and ask them if they need an explanation. Say, hey, there's a lot of conversations about the NAR lawsuit going around. I know a lot of people have asked me about it. I want to see if you have any questions, and if you do, I'm the person to talk to. Instead of them coming to you going, oh, I heard I don't have to pay a buyer agent anymore, which is not true. And I have agents saying that that's true. The amount of misinformation out there. And so what I wanted all of you guys to do is talk to your people first, even if they're not interested, even if they don't have questions, because what will happen is that that'll put you in the position of authority and the person who knows more. And instead of them coming to you acting like they know everything, because that's what they do. Hey, I don't have to pay a buyer agent anymore. I want to list my house for 2.5%. Now you have an objection to overcome, instead of being on the front part of it. Does that make sense? So sorry, it's a Las Vegas school education, so it doesn't come out very legible. This is the model that Gary Keller of Keller Williams teaches off of. It's the model that I basically teach off of. I just put mine in a different format. Leads, listings, and leverage. If you break this down, this is the minimum amount of things. It doesn't need to get any more complicated. You need to find leads. Where is the number one place you're going to find leads?
Sphere of influence.
Sphere of influence. And are there other places to get leads? Absolutely. Is there a better place to get leads? Absolutely not. If you look at every top agent out there, and when I say top agent, I mean somebody selling 50 to 100 homes a year, their number one source of business is sphere of influence. And if you come to our team meetings, you will see almost every sale or buyer is like sphere of influence, sphere of influence, sphere of influence. Yes.
I was gonna say, I find it like would be easier to work with some business I had some rapport with, because then when
Yep.
things, when there's stuff to figure out, at least you have like some idea of how they might react or.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have done it. I have made cold calls and I have gotten business from it. It is the hardest hustle that's out there. calling people you don't know and try to convince them to work with you on the largest asset that they could possibly ever own or have ever owned, it's hard to do. Can you do it? Absolutely. But using your sphere is the best and one of the only ways to actually grow your business. Because if you're starting out here with your database, which everybody has people in their database, I believe you have about 300 people. I can help you find 300 if you don't have 300. So you start out here, if you're not growing this, it's going to naturally have attrition. It's going to 299, 298, because like your sister's cousin's boyfriend's gonna cheat on his wife, and you're like, that dude is out of the database, not calling him anymore. And then like somebody's gonna pass away, like different things, somebody will move and you won't have their contact information. This will naturally just start dwindling down, and it'll get to where it's really low unless you keep growing it. And the way you keep growing it is that you talk to everybody in it, and then they start referring you to the people that they know, and so on and so forth. And there's different scripts that we can use. But the leads are SOI, sphere of influence. If you think that sphere of influence is not the way to go, that means you probably don't understand sphere of influence, and that's a different conversation we can have. That's actually a whole class on its own. Actually, come to my follow-up class and we'll talk about that. So the leads lead to listings, which is by far the best way to be a real estate agent. If you want to be a buyer's agent, first of all, I think it's going to be better after July when you have to actually make everybody sign a contract, which you kind of technically do have. And Rich would say it's not technical, but you have to do already in this office. You have to get them to sign a contract. And then the listings give you dollars that you can use with leverage. And then the leverage, you pump back into your leads and your sphere of influence, and then it just goes around. It's that simple. And this is the iteration of how many people you're going to talk to, and then focusing on this and how many of these do you get to get the money, and then the leverage. And we show you how to do this. Like if you get to the point to where like, I think I need leverage, you come talk to me and I'll let you know if you need leverage or not. And then I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you how to find people, hire people, how to give them a test, how to make sure they're the right person for the position. And has anybody read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent in here? You did? Do you remember?
Half of it.
Half of it?
I mean,
Who's your first hire? Do you guys remember that one?
Financial person, CPA.
No. Admin. Most agents hire a buyer's agent. Like, I'm so busy, I need a buyer's. No. You need an admin to handle the paperwork so you can do what you're good at. You can do what you're good at. In July, it's gonna be mandated by NAR that you have to have contracts for all your buyers. When I think about it, I'm fascinated at the fact that we've ever not done that. Because you would never go in front of a listing and market the listing and promote the listing and spend money on staging and spend money on photography and spend time to show it and do all that stuff. You would never do that without a contract. But yet we jump in our car and we drive around all day long, spending gas, spending time on a buyer. And then the buyer chooses to work with somebody else or to not buy. And then we're like, oh, buyers are liars. No, we just were really bad business people by doing it that way. Like, I don't like to work with buyers. And a lot of those reasons are for that. But now you're going to be able to lock a buyer into a contract. And if that's a solid buyer, that's going to be just like a listing almost. And it's going to be a really, really strong position to be in if you're really good at it. But in the history of real estate, listings have been always the way to go. And I think right now, if you ever get a listing, it's almost like cashing a commission check at this point. It's really hard to overprice a property at this point. Although I just saw somebody do it, about $200,000 overpriced, but it does happen. But listings are the way to go, because listings, you can potentially get 3 sales. You get the listing as a sale, you can potentially get a buyer for that house or for another house. And then if you know how to have the conversation with the seller, which I'm going to give you guys that most likely at the team meeting, is the script to talk to the seller to make sure the seller gives you a referral. So in that scenario, when the average sale price in this office is around $30,000, that's like 90 grand with one listing. Wouldn't that be cool? Thoughts?
So you
Questions?
said,
Yes.
once July hits, that's when we can have the contracts with the buyers?
No, you can do it right now.
Okay.
No, it's just gonna be, for all of real estate, it's gonna be mandated in July. That's when the
Mandated.
settlement, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I just find phone calling, like, at times I'm really excited about it, when
Yep.
it's like people my own age, so like we used to talk on the phone in
Yep.
high school. And then, but besides that, most people are really bad or just don't call you back. or
100%.
Don't follow, like, and then I'm like.
Don't-
I like doing this stuff, why don't other people like
Yeah.
keeping in touch?
Part of the problem when we make phone calls to people is that we call people, we text them and they don't call back. And they don't text back or anything. And then what happens is that we formulate ideas in our mind on why that happened. They don't like us, they're mad at us. And it's just, I see it happen all the time. And the truth of the matter is you don't know why. And it doesn't really matter. And so the key is that you called them, you left a voicemail, you sent a text message, they saw it at some point. So first of all, there's 97% of all text messages are read. I believe that's a statistic. So if you called, they didn't answer, you called back and left a voicemail, and then you sent a text message, you did that, that's 2 touches right there. They got your stuff. That's all that's important. And then you just follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up. I cannot tell you how many times I have stories of people that I put into our system and we followed up with them ad nauseum, never got a response. Never ever responded, never ever said thank you, never ever said anything, and then all of a sudden we get a call. Hey. Like, perfect one is I had somebody in the database and I'm sitting on the couch, it's like 7 o'clock. Get a text message, hey, can I see the property at 621 Oakdale? Sure, who is this? Oh, this is Lily, you've been sending me messages for over a year. So I go on my phone, Lily, who is Lily? Like, I'm searching, I go, oh. She's in a database. We've been sending her messages for over a year, never responded or anything. And all of a sudden, because of our follow-up, the 65+ touch thing that we have everybody in our database on, it's like, hey, want to see this property? Ended up buying 5 houses and 2 houses in Spain. So it's like, it's the patience. It's like everybody you know in your life, the 300 people here, every single one of them are gonna buy, sell, or rent. And every single one of them knows somebody that's gonna buy, sell, or rent. And if you know how to communicate with them, it's patience, time on task. There's 18 deals happening right there. I wanna say guaranteed, but it really comes down to your system and your work ethic, because I've already proven that it's 18 or more. Yes.
How do you feel about giving, your clients or potential clients a referral fee if they give, someone to, purchase with you out your commission? Is that something to bring up?
So depending on
Yeah, so
how you
how
do it,
much?
it's not legal if they are not licensed. But
Okay.
you can reward your friends for being really good friends. So there's a way to do it, I think. You
So-
can't actually say, this is a referral fee and give somebody money for actually giving you business. There's a law or something about that. But yeah, so if anybody ever refers me, like, we'll go to Ruth Chris. Or like, we'll do something really cool, right? I'll do something cool with my friends because you're allowed to do that. So you can't.
Okay, but you can't say out your commission. as
You cannot
part of
do
the
that.
tentative. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
And why would you?
exactly.
So I think there's a bad habit that's happened with real estate agents, and this is kind of why this whole lawsuit thing happened, is that we love to give away our commission because we think that that's gonna help incentivize people to actually use us when you don't see an attorney do that. You don't see doctors doing that. So like, the reason that I think that people say, well, I want to incentivize you to use me is like this whole like retail shopping thing. It's like, oh, 25% off or 50% off. Your value in getting them the home of their dreams is really what's going to be the value. And if you are the best in what you do and you can demonstrate that, you'll never have to discount what you do ever again. You just have to show value. If you try to say, oh, I'll take your listing for 1% or 2%, or you try to discount your commission, in the absence of value, it's price. And I love to debate this with agents all day long because you can literally get up out of this seat, walk to Beverly Hills and go buy a $4,000 clutch. when they sell the same thing at Target for like $30. And it's value versus price, and they sell those all day long. There's actually a whole pricing thing on how they stock them and how they order them to create scarcity so they can keep the price high. It's crazy. It's a really crazy conversation. Yes.
It's also reading that commission can also be negotiated. What would you say is a healthy frame to keep it within?
So I always start at 6%. And if nobody wants to do 6%, like I've said no to business. Tracy said no to business. And it's just like, you have to bring more value than anybody else, because at the end of the day, we all do the same thing, right? There's nothing that Tammy does that's different than what I do. So what I have to do to separate myself from Tammy and from everybody else in the room is I have to create a value proposition of what I do that's different. What makes you special? And so what, like, things that I've done in the past is that I created a communication guarantee. And so during my presentation, there was a slide that popped up and I said, I have a communication guarantee that if I don't speak to you at least once a week on what's happening with your listing, I'll take $1,000 off of my commission. Because it's not your job to hold me accountable, it's my job to hold me accountable. And then the jokes would be, sellers have jokes, like, oh, well, I'm not gonna answer the phone when you call me. I said, that's fine, I'll show up. I'll send you a text message. I said, because I work for my money, I earn my money, and I'm really good at what I do. And I will show up and I will make sure that you have everything you need. Oh, well, I won't answer my door. I said, where do you work? Because I'll show up there. And it's like, oh, ha, 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 ha. But the thing is that what it does is that nobody else sitting in front of that person is gonna say something like that. I had a whole bunch of guarantees and different things that I would do to make myself stand out. And at the end of the day, the number one thing you can do with your clients to make yourself stand out even more is over communicate with them and make them feel like they're the only client you have. Even if you have 50 clients and you're working them all at the same time, if you make that person feel like they're the only client you have, you're gonna win. You'll have a client for life. That is probably the biggest thing that I have, is that I'm getting ready to film a video on how I call real estate agents to see who doesn't actually answer their phone. And then when they answer their phone, I'm gonna give them like an Amazon gift card. Just for fun, because I think it's funny. But
Make sure you put Frank in your.
What's funny though is I had one of my vendors is like, oh, you should call me. I called him, he didn't answer. Okay, but over communicating with your clients, because we tend to feel like they know more than they actually do. They don't know as much as you think. They don't know anything about the process. And if you can educate them, they're not gonna go anywhere. They're not gonna go anywhere else, because most real estate agents are terrible at communication. Terrible. Yes.
Back to the buyer commission.
Yeah.
They are in the C forms, the contract yet or not?
So is the buyer agent contract in the
Yeah.
forms? Yeah, they're in the forms. I think it's gonna change by July, but you can get the form in there now. It's always been in there.
Yeah, it's in there. It's always skipped over.
Yeah, another way on that commission that you can segue, that I like this approach, is when they're, talking about commission, you can say, I charge 3% for my commission. And then we can discuss what you would like to offer to
Yeah.
the buyer's agent, and then go over your comps.
Yeah.
Right now, we're still seeing 2.5%, 3%.
Yeah.
So that's another way to just kind of not hit them with that 6, if you like to use that approach, which I prefer.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that might change as you're getting those agents that can't negotiate anything and are not offering anything, but that's and I think a softer approach that may get you to close the deal a little bit easier, so. that's an
Absolutely.
option for you too.
I try to coach and help agents within these Facebook groups. I go on the Facebook groups and I start talking to everybody. There was one agent that said, I took a 4% listing and he doesn't want me to give anything to a buyer agent because he heard on TikTok that he doesn't have to pay a buyer agent anymore. And I'm like, so you couldn't overcome an objection if somebody got from TikTok? Are you? What office are you with? I'm gonna recruit you, because it's like, if you're getting your business advice from TikTok, like, we need to have a different conversation. But this is the way we'll end with this. This is the way I explain commission to my people, is that I do my presentation, my value presentation on why I should be a realtor. If they're like, yes, you're the one, I think you're the one, I say, okay, let's go over price. We go over comps. I never say the price. I never say it's 1.5. I never. Do you know why? It's a negotiating tactic. The person who says the price first loses. Got that from used cars. Absolutely true. You say the price first, you're gonna lose, because where do you have to go from there? Down, that's it.
Or you're just way off. So
Or you just went, yeah, because you need to know what they think first.
I asked, when I had a seller, I asked, well, how much money you wanted to keep, after the
Yeah.
transaction.
Yeah.
And that's why I figure out the numbers.
So if they say, what do you think it's worth, Frank? I said, you know what? It's not really important what I think. It's your house is gonna be worth what a buyer's willing to pay. And this is how we determine it. An appraiser's gonna come out and make sure that we are spot on price, but I need to make sure that you and I are on the same page. And this is how we do it. And we go through a list of properties that have sold in the area. And I say, listen, an appraiser comes out, and this is what an appraiser does. An appraiser does exactly what I do, except he gets paid hourly and I get paid way better because I'm better at what I do. I say that on purpose so they understand that my opinion is more important than the appraiser's. And I say, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at all the homes that have sold, because if you price your house higher than these, we may have a problem. And I don't want you to lose any money. And so we go over so what I do is I pull the comps with all the photos. Yes, it's a lot of printer ink, but it's worth it because I show them the property, go the price, go over everything, show them the photos one by one by one. I don't care how long it takes. And this is actually a strategy that I think Tracy showed me. And so when they go, well, I think my house is 1.5. I go, okay. I look at the comps and I go, okay, based on these comps, where did you get that number? And then they'll try to, my house is this, I put this much money, I said, okay, and then I go over the houses that are nicer than theirs, that are priced lower or whatever, if that's the case. And what I do is I get them to argue for their price instead of me trying to argue for my price. And then I explain to them the consequences of what will happen depending on where we price it. And then the next section of the contract is the commission. And I say, okay, this is where we put the commission. Do you know how commission works? I never say, this is how it works. I never say that. I ask them, do you know how commission works? And that's where you're gonna get the stories. Yes. And the conversation that I've had is, yes, can you explain it again? Or they'd be, yes, I heard you don't have to pay a buyer's agent, blah, 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 blah. Okay. This is how commission works. I typically charge 6%. That gets cut in half. 3% goes to me. And then we typically offer 3% to a buyer's agent. And this is why. Because if I just take 3%, that means I'm the only person marketing and seeing your property. If we put 3% on the MLS, that means you're actually paying 3% to have all the other realtors market your property as well. Wouldn't it be cool if we got into a bidding war? Yes. Wouldn't it be cool if we got an over asking price? Yes. Okay. That only happens if you offer a commission that's compelling to the other people. Now, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. This is all negotiable. You don't have to pay me 6%. You don't have to pay 3%. You don't have to do any of that. This is all a negotiation. But I'm just telling you what I charge. And then we have a negotiation. And I go, do you understand that? And I ask them if they understand that. Because they sign a document. This is the ridiculous thing about the lawsuit, is they actually sign a document saying that they did understand it and that they did read it. Yet we got sued because they didn't understand it and they didn't read it. Anyway, I digress. And so I explain it to them, and typically what happens is this goes from 3% to 2.5, and then goes to 3% to 2.5. Very rarely, very, very rarely have I offered under 2.5%. It happens. It happens. I don't think I've ever offered under 1.5%. Well, under 2%. I don't think it's gone to like 1.75 or anything like that. But it comes down to, are you valuable enough for that? Are you going to get what you want? But then the last thing I say is, after we go through this conversation, is that I ask them, because I've already done the math on the price that I want. is I asked them, I have a net sheet and have all that information. I said, if you walked out of this house with $1.1 million in your pocket and everybody's paid and everybody's happy, would you be happy? They're like, 1.1? Yeah, I think I would be. Great. That's this price, that's this commission, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Are you happy with that? That sounds like something similar that you do. Yeah. So, and the thing is that the only reason I'm able to like rattle all this stuff off is because I've done it so many times, so many. I've been doing this for 21 years. I know agents that are brand new in the business that do it like that too, because they've just iterated it so many times that it's just, you know, they're not just calling one person a day. They're calling multiple people. They're talking about real estate all the time. Questions before I wrap everything up? Yes.
In certain situations, are you able to charge more or accept more, or does it stay at 6% or less?
So you will get varying answers on that question. There is no fee. There is no specific fee. You can charge whatever you want. Technically, you can charge 10%. During short sales, when short sales were happening in 2008, I was charging 7% for a short sale. Because if you charged 5 or 6, the bank would knock it down. Think, oh, you're getting 4. Bam. Oh, 4? What? 2 and 2 now? So I charged 7 because but what happened, and it only happened one time where they knocked it down to 5. So now I got a normal commission because I outsmarted the bank. But all the banks were different. But you can there is no cap on, so that's the whole thing, is commissions are negotiable. You can go on there and say, listen, I charge 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6. You give reasons why you charge all those different fees. And they're like, well, I'll charge, 6. But the thing is, you have to tell them it's negotiable. It doesn't have to be 6. But if they go, well, I don't want that, I want to charge 5, you can get up and walk out. You don't have to do what they say. If you have standards like you should have in your business, standards in your business, you say, I charge 6% and this is it. If the person doesn't agree to it, you can walk out. There is no cap. You can charge 10% if you wanted to. I don't know of a rule. Do you know of a rule that you can't charge more? Yeah. It's like we're lemmings, right? Like we follow the crowd. Like 6% is like the standard, and that's just what everybody does. So that's just kind of where it's at. You'd absolutely charge 7 to get somebody to pay it. The problem is like the whole commodity conversation. Like they're not going to pay 7 because they could literally go anyplace else and find it for 6. Maybe you can find somebody better for 6. So
It's all supply and demand.
Yeah.
The market sucks, the commissions go up.
yeah,
It's the same thing with, any new builds. When they're dying on the vine, those commissions go sometimes up to 4%, 25%, or $25,000 credit to the buyer, and, all these other things. So, but they don't need us.
yeah. I've listed homes at a higher percentage than like expired listings. I've listed them at a higher percentage for the simple fact that he would say, well, I only paid the last guy 5%. And I'm like, how'd that work out for you? Like he didn't sell it. I said, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to actually sell it. Is it worth an extra percent for you to actually get it sold? It's hard to argue that. So yeah, the answer to your question is no, you can charge almost whatever you want, as far as I know. Anybody else? All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Let's play the last video and we'll get out of here.
This is Brian.
HoneyBook is a
What's stopping you? Are you too tired? Didn't get enough sleep? Don't have enough energy? Don't have enough time? Is that what's stopping you right now? Don't have enough money? Is that the thing? Or is the thing that's stopping you, you?
Excuses sound best to the person that's making them up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get off the pity potty. Telling everybody your sad and sob stories, trying to get people to show up to your pity potties and your pity parades. If you ever see me in a Rolls Royce, a 6 or 7 star hotel, living my life to the fullest, don't get jealous of me, because I worked my ass off to get it. Nobody handed me nothing. Wake your ass up. Awaken the beast inside. It's game on. It's go season. It's time for you to take advantage of the access and the resources that you have in your country and your community. You got a problem with your life, you got a problem with your environment, do something about it. If you want it, go get it.
Recognize the excuses are not valid. They're conjured up, they're fabricated, they're lies. And how do you stop the lies? You stop the lies with the truth. And the truth is, you have time. You have the skill, you have the knowledge and the support and the willpower and the discipline to get it done.
The fruit of everything good in life begins with a challenge. Everything is uphill that's worthwhile. And it's not going to come to you, and it's not going to fall in your lap, and it's not going to be something that, oh my God, it just was so simple. It's always going to be difficult.
If you want it, you gotta go get it.
This is your chance. This is your shot. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your place. This is your opportunity.
This is my time. This is my moment. Tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. Ain't no such thing as tomorrow. We only got today. It's your dream. If you wanted to have it, get your butt up and make it happen. If you wanted to have it, rise and grind.
You still got work to do. Stay on that basketball court. Stay on that football field. It's grind season, homie.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you.